My wealthy uncle discovered I was living in my car while working 2 jobs to pay for college, all while my cousins mocked me to everyone. Hey everyone, before we begin today's video, I'd like to ask for your support. Our channel has slowed down a bit, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us grow. It's free, fast, and allows us to keep creating content like this. Your support means so much. Let's keep building this community together. Thanks. And now let's get into the story. Alright Reddit, this one's going to be long. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I need to get this out because my mind has been spinning from everything that's happened. I never thought I'd be writing about my life here, but here we are. It started when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. I was 14, just beginning high school, thinking algebra would be my hardest challenge. He'd been exhausted for a while, but we thought it was just work stress. Then one Tuesday after school, my mom sat me down in the kitchen and told me he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The next 6 months felt like living someone else's story. Dad got sick quickly, lost his hair, lost a ton of weight. His favorite Chicago Bears jersey hung off him like a tent. Still, he kept joking, even helping me with math homework when he could barely sit up. The last thing he ever said to me was, "Don't let your mom's cooking kill you before I get back," as they took him to the hospital one final time. That was so typical of him, always trying to make me laugh. He passed away on a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were pizza night. Instead of deep dish, I was in a hospital waiting room under flickering fluorescent lights, watching my mom cry into the phone while calling relatives. I thought that would be the lowest point of my life. I was wrong. After Dad died, Mom fell apart. Within 2 months she was dating again, saying she needed to feel alive. That's when she met Derek, a wealthy real estate developer. He showered her with gifts, weekend trips, and attention. I tried to be supportive. Dad wouldn't want her sad forever. But less than a year later, she married him. She didn't even tell me they were engaged. I only found out when she handed me a junior bridesmaid dress she had already bought. The wedding was at an upscale country club in Newport Beach. All of Derek's wealthy friends looked at us like we were some charity project. I spent most of the reception hiding in the bathroom, trying not to cry. Things shifted completely after that. Mom and Derek moved into his mansion, pool, tennis court, the works. But apparently there wasn't room for me. Mom said I'd be more comfortable living with my Aunt Lisa, my dad's sister, in Chicago. Comfortable for who, exactly? So I was shipped off like unwanted luggage. Aunt Lisa lived in a massive house in Lincoln Park, with Uncle Marcus and my cousins Michael 17 and Rebecca 18. We'd been close as kids, spending summers together making up games. But living with them was different. Suddenly, I wasn't the fun cousin. I was the unwanted guest. Michael constantly accidentally knocked my things over. Rebecca made comments about how her clothes were too nice for me to borrow when I had no winter gear. But Aunt Lisa was the worst. She made it clear I was a burden, and even started charging me rent while I was still in high school. Who does that? Meanwhile, Mom basically disappeared. She'd send small amounts of money, never enough to cover Aunt Lisa's rent. Calls went unanswered. She was always busy with yoga, events, or Derek. On Facebook, I'd see pictures of their trips to Europe, yacht parties, charity galas. She even archived our old family photos, saying they didn't fit her new profile aesthetic. It felt like I'd lost both parents. A month in, Aunt Lisa raised my rent again, claimed property taxes were higher. I was only 15, but I needed a job. Rebecca helpfully told me about a laundromat hiring overnight in a rough part of the city. The owner, Jerry, wasn't thrilled about my age, but let me work anyway. Midnight to 6 a.m., mid-freezing cold, strange customers, and a heater that barely worked. But that wasn't enough. So I picked up another job at a gas station, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's where Michael and his friends had their fun, trashing displays, spilling drinks, making messes for me to clean. Rebecca was sneakier, bringing her cheerleader friends to mock me loudly, take pictures, and post them online. At school, she made sure everyone knew. People left quarters on my desk, called me washer girl, and taped labels on my locker. Between midnight shifts, evening shifts, and school, I was exhausted. My grades slipped. Teachers asked if something was wrong, but I just said I was adjusting. The only decent part of the laundromat job was Pete, a homeless man who stopped by often. He taught me how to fix machines and made me laugh when I hadn't in weeks. One night he told me, "Kid, you're living life on expert mode right now." Then he disappeared during the harsh winter. I still worry about him. Uncle Marcus owned the laundromat building, though I never saw him. Apparently he sent people to check in sometimes, but I didn't know that then. Back at Aunt Lisa's, the rent kept going up, utilities, HOA fees, even calling my tiny basement storage room prime real estate. I started hiding savings in an old teddy bear Dad had given me. My plan was to move out once I had enough, but every time I got close, something happened. School expenses, car repairs, or replacing boots in winter. The final blow was coming home one night to find my room ransacked. My teddy bear was ripped open, and all my savings were gone. Rebecca swore she was just cleaning. Sure, that same week, Aunt Lisa doubled my rent again. At that point, I had to choose, keep paying her or pursue an education. I'd been taking community college classes, and financial aid was possible if I took more. So I chose school. I packed what I could into my old Toyota, rusty, unreliable heat, but mine. The first night sleeping in it wasn't bad. Parked behind the laundromat, used my backpack as a pillow, layered blankets from the lost and found box. I thought, I can manage this. Then Chicago winter hit. My car battery kept dying, and I could barely run the heat. The hardest part wasn't the cold. It was pretending I was fine, trying to explain wrinkled homework, wearing the same 3 outfits, or brushing off questions from teachers. The counselor wanted to help, but what was I supposed to say? Don't worry, I live in my car, but it's in a decent alley. No polls for mixing. Eventually Michael figured it out. He followed me after a laundromat shift and filmed everything for TikTok. He and Rebecca posted a documentary called My Homeless Cousin. It showed my frost-covered windows, me studying under the laundromat sign, even changing clothes in the back seat. The videos my cousins made spread quickly among their wealthy friends. Soon people were driving past the laundromat at night, honking, throwing things at my car. Police started checking in more often. Every few nights, there would be a knock on my window. "You can't sleep here, miss." I'd drive around until they left, then circle back, watching my gas tank drop lower and lower, hoping I'd have enough to get to work the next day. Strangely, I kept noticing a black SUV parked across the street some nights, always in a different spot, engine running, windows tinted. At first I thought it was the cops, or maybe someone shady, but they never approached, just watched. Then one night, temperatures dropped to -15 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of cold that makes your eyes ache. My car wouldn't start, my phone was dead, and the laundromat was closed for repairs. I honestly thought that was it. I'd freeze out there. I bundled up in every layer of clothing I had, trying to keep warm. That's when I heard a knock on my window. Uncle Marcus was standing outside in the snow, calm as ever, like it wasn't set 2 in the morning in sub-zero weather. He said simply, "I think we need to talk." Turns out, the black SUV was his. He'd been monitoring me through the laundromat's security cameras, sending people to keep an eye on me. He said he wanted to see what I was capable of. A strange kind of test. But at that point, I was too cold to care. He brought me upstairs to his office above the laundromat. A small room I didn't even know existed. It had a desk, mini fridge, coffee maker, and a little bathroom. While I defrosted my hands around a real cup of coffee, he sat quietly, studying me like I was a puzzle. Finally he said, "You know, your dad and I used to sleep in a car too." I nearly dropped my cup. I'd only ever known Marcus as the wealthy real estate guy with designer suits. But then he shared a story I'd never heard. He and my dad had grown up extremely poor. Their mom worked 3 jobs, and they still couldn't afford rent most months. He even pulled out an old photo of the two of them as teenagers, sitting in a van eating beans straight from the can. "That's your dad," he said, pointing to the same smile I remembered, just younger. He explained that during those years, the laundromat's original owner used to let them stay inside on cold nights. They helped him fix machines, clean up, whatever was needed. When the owner fell ill, he offered to sell them the place. Dad had just started college on a scholarship, but Marcus was working construction and saving money. He bought it for almost nothing, and that became his first property. Then Marcus pulled out old files, property deeds, contracts, even business plans, with my dad's notes scribbled in the margins. He told me Dad had made him promise 2 things before he passed: look after me, and make sure I learned to take care of myself. Marcus said, "You're doing better at the second part than I expected." I tried not to cry, but I wasn't very successful. And then he revealed something else. He now owned most of the block around the laundromat, including apartment buildings and shops. He admitted he'd been watching me all along, keeping track of how I handled things. "You worked 2 jobs without complaint, kept your grades up, and found ways to manage that most people wouldn't think of. You even ran the laundromat better than the manager I hired," he said, actually smiling. Jerry had apparently told him I fixed the coin machine, something their maintenance guy struggled with. That's when Marcus handed me a key. It was for a small apartment above his office. He said it was mine, rent-free as long as I kept working, and stayed focused on school. I tried to refuse, saying it felt like charity, but he cut me off quickly. "This isn't charity. This is an investment. You have your father's intelligence and your own determination. I'm investing in that." He even showed me a folder he had kept, copies of my school records, Jerry Sepp's reports about my work, and even screenshots of those cruel TikToks my cousins posted. "They thought they were embarrassing you," he said. All I saw was someone who refused to give up. I'd always thought Marcus was a cold businessman who didn't care and let his wife treat me badly. Turns out he'd been testing me. Strange way to go about it. Yes, but I began to understand. He wanted to know if I had the same resilience my dad had. Before I left that night, he told me about his last conversation with Dad in the hospital. Dad had made him promise not to hand me everything, that I needed to build strength on my own. But he also told Marcus to know when enough was enough. "And kid, you've more than proved yourself," Marcus said. That night, I slept in a real bed for the first time in months. The apartment wasn't fancy, just one room with a small kitchen and bathroom, but it was warm, clean, and safe. The next morning, my phone blew up with texts from Aunt Lisa. Apparently Michael had seen me coming out of the upstairs apartment and of course took photos. Lisa stormed into the laundromat during my shift, dressed in designer workout clothes, furious. She accused me of trying to steal her husband, claiming I was seducing him. Right? Because fixing broken machines and living in a basement is so glamorous. Customers stared while she ranted. One elderly woman even started recording on her phone. Lisa accused me of being like my mom, taking advantage of rich men. I just stood there, holding a mop, stunned. Then Jerry stepped in and told her to leave before he called the police. She stormed out, but not before warning me it wasn't over. That night, I heard her and Marcus arguing loudly upstairs. She stayed at a friend's house, and the next morning Marcus looked exhausted, barely acknowledging me. Not long after, my mom suddenly began calling, acting concerned for the first time in months. I was sure Rebecca had fed her rumors. Soon Mom and Derek showed up at my apartment, uninvited. Mom scanned my tiny studio and called it quaint, in a tone that sounded more judgmental than kind. Derek stood by the door as if poverty was contagious. Mom began circling the room, saying, "We said he heard things about you and Marcus." She implied that I was manipulating him for money. I realized then she thought I was trying to get a piece of his wealth. I laughed, bitterly. Obvious to who? The woman who sent me away and ignored me. She claimed it wasn't fair, that she was grieving. I told her the truth. She wasn't grieving. She was upgrading her life with Derek while I was left behind. She dismissed my struggles, waving them off as exaggerations. I told her to check the hospital records from when I got sick, living in my car, or the rent receipts Lisa made me keep. But of course she couldn't. She'd been too busy posting pictures from yacht parties to answer my calls. She insisted that was all ancient history. Then she mentioned Derek had a friend with a boarding school in Switzerland, as if that was supposed to fix everything. I called her out, saying she was only worried now because Marcus was teaching me the business. Her expression hardened. She dropped the concerned mom act and went straight to entitlement. She claimed that since Marcus was Dad Sip's brother, anything of his should go to her. I corrected her, ex-wife, who remarried less than a year after Dad died. She snapped back that she deserved it. I cut her off. You deserve. Dad and Marcus built this from nothing. While you were hosting charity events, I was learning to repair machines, manage books, and actually help people. Mom tried to belittle Dad, calling his work a hobby. That was it. I pointed to the door and told them to leave, go back to their perfect life, and staged family photos. Derek tried to step in, but I stopped him. My voice was steady, stronger than I expected. I knew exactly why they came. They'd heard I was working with Uncle Marcus and panicked, afraid I might actually earn something they thought belonged to them. But here's the truth. I'm not like them. I'm not chasing money. I'm here because Marcus gave me a chance when they pushed me aside. My mom Sip's face turned red. How dare you, she said. I opened the door and told her, how dare you pretend to care about me, when all you care about is your account balance. And by the way, that pantsuit makes you look desperate. They left, my mom muttering about ingratitude, while Derek was already scrolling on his phone. I shut the door and leaned against it, shaking. Through the thin walls, I heard her voice. I told you this would happen. That little gold digger is going to try to take everything. After that confrontation, things stayed strangely quiet for about a week. Then one night at work, Michael rushed into the laundromat, looking pale. He had been using Aunt Lisa's iPad when a message appeared from someone saved as D. It said, "Everything's ready for next week. Lisa baby, we'll finally be free." Michael, being curious, opened the full conversation. Lisa had never logged out of her accounts, so he saw months of messages and even emails. And D was Derek, my stepdad, my mom's husband. They had been planning for nearly a year to take millions from Uncle Marcus's business and disappear. Every time Aunt Lisa raised my rent, she was funneling that money into a hidden account. Michael didn't know what to do, so he came to me. For the first time, he realized his mom wasn't just strict, she was about to abandon him. I called Uncle Marcus. Part of me wanted to let it all collapse as payback, but Marcus showed up immediately. Michael, still shaking, handed him the iPad. I'd never seen Marcus look so expressionless. He called his lawyer, who admitted he had already noticed irregularities in some accounts, but hadn't connected the pieces because Lisa handled most of the paperwork. When the lawyers dug deeper, the truth came out. Lisa and Derek were planning to take $4.3 million. Nearly $1 million had already been moved offshore. She'd even stolen from her own children's college funds. Marcus brought in a full team of accountants. They uncovered fake companies Lisa had created, issuing checks for maintenance and supplies that just went into secret accounts. Meanwhile, Lisa kept posting her perfect life selfies online, and Derek kept parading around at charity events with my mom. The lawyers said we had to wait for more evidence, but then Rebecca discovered the same messages. One night she arrived at my apartment in tears, asking to stay. It was the first time she'd ever not had a comfortable home. She slept on my futon, used my cheap shampoo, and wore my discount clothes. She kept apologizing for how she'd treated me. And honestly, just watching her realize money doesn't define character was enough. Marcus had his IT team monitoring the accounts. The plan was to catch Lisa and Derek just before they tried to leave. But Lisa must have sensed something, because she started moving funds faster. The timing aligned with Michael's 18th birthday party. Lisa had planned an extravagant event: DJ, catering, even backyard mini-golf. Marcus decided that would be the perfect time to confront them, with evidence ready and the FBI waiting nearby. Rebecca asked if we should warn my mom first, but Marcus said no. We needed to see her genuine reaction. The morning of the party was surreal. Lisa busied herself with decorations while planning to vanish the next day. Rebecca and I helped set up, both pretending nothing was wrong. Michael looked uneasy every time his mom hugged him. Marcus's lawyer arrived mid-afternoon, carrying a thick folder. Lisa's face fell instantly. Everyone gathered in the living room. My mom complained about interrupting the party, but the lawyer started laying out evidence: bank statements, emails, transfer logs, even surveillance photos of Lisa and Derek together. Then came a recording of their conversations, laughing about how easy it was to fool everyone. The room went silent. My mom froze when Derek's voice played. Lisa tried to claim the recording was fake, but Marcus pulled out the iPad Michael had found and read their text exchanges aloud. That was the breaking point. My mom started screaming at Derek. Lisa tried to escape, but FBI agents were already at the door. One calmly said, "Lisa Anderson, you're under arrest for wire fraud and embezzlement." They handcuffed both Lisa and Derek. Derek insisted he had an explanation, while Lisa cried about her life being ruined. Neither looked at their children. On Michael's birthday, their focus wasn't on him, it was on themselves. My mom collapsed when she realized Derek had used her money as well. She had signed papers without reading. Trusting him, he'd drained what remained of Dad's life insurance. The following weeks were chaotic. The FBI discovered even more fake passports, additional offshore accounts, and charity money that had been stolen too. During that time, Rebecca and Michael moved into my apartment. We made it work. Michael on the futon, Rebecca sharing my bed, all of us using one bathroom. They even started working at the laundromat. Rebecca turned out to be good with customers, and Michael had a natural talent for repairing machines. My mom entered rehab, not for addiction, but to face her issues. She admitted she had been obsessed with appearances, ignoring every warning sign. Marcus stepped in fully, teaching us about the business. He said he wanted me, Rebecca, and Michael to run it together one day. We each had strengths. I was strong with numbers. Rebecca had people skills, and Michael was mechanically gifted. Last week, we visited my dad's grave together. Marcus shared more stories about him, how he worked as a teacher while helping build the business, because he believed in supporting others. Lisa and Derek remain in prison. Both blame each other, but neither takes responsibility. Rebecca and Michael still struggle with the betrayal, learning their mother valued escape over her own children. But somehow we're closer now. My mom is finally addressing her problems. Rebecca and Michael have learned the value of real work, and I've realized letting others help isn't weakness, it's growth. Sometimes I look around and can't believe how far things have come. I'm sitting in the laundromat office, my office now, managing a place that once felt like my only refuge. In the end, I may have lost part of my family, but I gained something better. TR. My aunt and stepdad secretly planned to steal millions and run away. They were arrested at a birthday party. My mom had a breakdown and went to rehab. My cousins learned humility through work. And somehow, against all odds, we became a real family.